AI. Yes, folks, if it feels overwhelming or if it feels like it's just for techies or maybe big brands, well, let me stop you right there because you don't need a fancy setup. You don't need to have a computer science degree to make AI your new business partner. In fact, you can start building your next funnel or your next sales campaign with AI right after you're done listening to this episode, if you know where to start is. So let me walk you through how my guest today is using AI to create high converting funnels, magnetic messaging, and money making ads in a fraction of the time. This episode is brought to you by Metricool. From planning to publishing to understanding what's actually working, Metricool gives you data-driven control. And with their built-in AI tools and competitor tracking, you'll stop guessing and start growing. Just click the link in the show notes for 30 free days of premium access and make sure to use the code Katie30. All right, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Today, my guest is Allie Bloyd. Now, Allie, I've seen her speak on stages, I want to say back to 2020. And she and I actually got to hang out at Social Media Marketing World last year. We had a ton of fun. There's a great bathroom where Social Media Marketing World has an after party. Everybody went in there and took selfies. It was a great bathroom. But she and I got to hang out, and I was like, man, I'd love to have you come on my show and talk about Facebook ads. But that was a year ago, and so much has changed. And so today we're going to talk about how Allie is utilizing AI to help create Facebook ads, funnels, do all the things in just a fraction of the time. So thank you so much, Allie, for joining me on the podcast today.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just say that was an awesome intro. You certainly are a natural at podcasting. But yes, it was so amazing to meet you. It was such a great time. Love Social Media Marketing World. And you're right, a lot has changed in the last year. You know, the great thing is that paid ads, social ads, they still work. I still love them. That is the core of my business for my own self, as well as for the people that we work with. But now we have the massive benefit of leveraging AI to do these things so much quicker, so much easier, and ultimately a lot more effectively in some cases. And in most cases, really, because there's a lot of parts and pieces that go into it. And it's very easy to overlook things. It's easy to forget things. And so being able to do this quicker, having an extra set of eyes on everything that you're doing and something that can actually see things that maybe you can't a lot of the times is hugely beneficial. Always excited to chat about all the marketing things, but ads and AI are certainly my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, you're, like I said, I got introduced to you as being the Facebook ads expert. I've been following you online for years. You're a multi-seven-figure coach. You're a farm owner. I mean, you do all the things. I don't know how you find time to do all of it, but I think AI has probably changed the game a little bit. I mean, we were talking before I hit record here. You're writing books, not just singular books with an S. And so, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about how AI has changed the way that you approach your business, because you've been a business owner for years. You left your corporate job because you wanted to do things faster and in a different way. And I think that's kind of what a lot of entrepreneurs do, is that they see something that's working and then they go all in on it, despite what the big corporation says, well, that's not how we typically do it. So what made you decide, I mean, you're the business owner, what made you decide to shift into focusing so much on AI?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I was a naysayer, I think, the first year
Same.
or so. You know, I personally think that AI has the power to have massive negative impacts in our world and our society. And I still believe that to be true, but I also see it as a tool, just like money. You know, it's going to make you more of what you already are. If you are somebody who wants to create negative impacts in the world, you can use AI to do it. You can use money to do it. But if you want to make a positive impact and a positive difference, you can also use AI for those things. And ultimately, I can't control the speed at which things are changing. You know, it is here whether I like it or not. And being able to use it for good is the only control that I really have. And so I also have been a writer, you know, since as early as I could hold a pencil. That is what I do, whether it's creative writing or copywriting. It's something that I love. And so those were obviously the very early applications for AI was, you know, writing. Well, I never needed help writing. I can write quickly, I can write easily, I can write effectively. And I did not believe that AI writing was something that I was ever going to actually adopt because I know the strength of my writing. And so I didn't really hop on the train right away. I thought that, this is cool, but it's not something that I need. Now, as time went on and I started to dive into it, because ultimately, even if I don't necessarily think I'm going to adopt something into the business, if it's a big thing that's shifting, I want to do my due diligence and make sure that I know the ins and outs of whatever this is. And so as I started moving forward, I realized that, okay, I don't need help writing with AI. I coach a lot of small business owners and marketers that struggle to write well. And writing is involved in every single aspect of what we do in marketing, whether it's writing a script for your video sales letter or the text on your landing page or your ads, your email follow-ups. It's all written content, or at least starts as written content. And so I really wanted to start seeing how I could, more than anything, leverage this for my students, give them the opportunity to do things faster. I have a crazy amount of ad copy templates and funnels and landing page templates and things like that. But no matter what, they've still got to take that and apply that to their offer and their business. And it was something that was really slowing a lot of people down. And so that was the first bot that I created, was the Allie Bloyd copy bot. And so this was something that I thought would just be a benefit to them in the program. I give them a ton of feedback and reviews, but I'm not available 24/7. Us entrepreneurs, we're up working at 2 a.m. sometimes trying to finish something, or just because we're inspired. And if they needed help, I'm not going to be right there for them at 2 a.m. And so that was the first thing that I really implemented AI wise into my business for the support of my students. And it had amazing results. It was trained on all of my copywriting frameworks, loads and loads of past successful copywriting. It was trained on the material of some of the best copywriters in the world, going back like 100 years. And so the quality of the inputs obviously impacts the outputs. And so I found that it was doing, about 95% of the job, that I would never necessarily take it exactly as it was, but it might be just changing a few words or adding an additional line into the copy. And that was a huge time saver. And so the second thing that I started to see was, okay, not everybody can write like Allie Bloyd. That's cool. I've got the Allie Bloyd copy bot. That's huge for them, but I need this for my team as well. It's very difficult to find somebody who does things exactly as you do them, but ultimately we can't go through business alone. And so I really started to leverage it for our internal operations more than anything else. I was able to really expedite the training process, the onboarding process, all of the SOPs and documentation. We created custom GPTs for pretty much every role in the business. So they had their own, Allie Bloyd assistant that was designed specifically for their job. It was trained on all of the things that they needed to know so that they could get more done. They could get it done faster. They could get it done better. A lot fewer things for me to have to go in and review or rewrite or edit. And so it was a big time saver for them, but it was also a big time saver for me personally. And then as we continued to do that, I started adding more bots and more bots, really for anything that I saw my students or my team struggling with. I would go ahead and create an AI-based resource for them. And I saw the impacts just compound, really. So no longer are they just using it for copy, they're using it for code, they're using it for automations, they're using it to build full websites and landing pages in a matter of minutes. All these things that have previously taken a decent amount of time, even for somebody who's really fast and efficient. But for the person who's not really fast and efficient, it could take weeks and weeks and months and months. And so we were able to cut down the implementation time significantly, give better support to the people that we work with without it adding more time outside of the time that I spent setting these bots up initially. And then as we started using it more and more, my eyes were just constantly being opened to all of the applications, all of the possibilities, the content creation, outside of the writing, the AI video avatars that we set up. I told you right before we started that I launched my latest program entirely built with AI. So all of the videos in that membership portal, it's 8 full modules. I think it's close to 50 videos. I didn't have to record those. It was done with my AI video avatar. We created all the slide decks, all of the content. Now, I did spend my time focusing on really planning everything out, making sure that it had all of my presentations and my documentation and everything that would ensure that what was being presented was accurate and was what I would really recommend to people, because I don't want somebody coming in and just getting a bunch of generic ChatGPT content. So putting in the time on the front end was really where I focused, making sure that every single module, every lesson, every video script was planned out. So I was confident that not only was this going to be a great program, but that people were really going to see massive results with this. And so that would have taken me a long time
Mhm.
to do, especially, I was in a really, really busy season at that time. I've had like a super busy last 6 to 8 months, and I would not have been able to launch that program at that time at all because of it if I had not been able to leverage AI. And so it's constantly shifting and evolving. And it really, it was after Level Up last year that I just had this light bulb go off and said, I'm going to create a system that's never been created before, that is going to totally change the way that people market and sell online. And so we're in the middle of working on a new AI-based SaaS platform that I am just so excited about. It's going to be a game changer. Even with the help of AI, it's a pretty complex system. And so just getting it developed is obviously the biggest challenge right now. But the fact that I've even been able to get as far on it as I've gotten it's really insane, because our limitations are almost entirely removed at this point. And I constantly just feel like people, they don't realize it yet. And that's okay. Not everybody has got to go all in on AI, but at the bare minimum, everyone should be saying, how can I use this to expedite our processes to get to the good result faster, save myself time, save my team time, help my clients get better results, or provide, an increased quality of service or support in whatever it is that you're doing. And it's a game changer. Voice AI for outbound calls. We just got started with that a couple of months ago, and it's been completely revolutionary for the way that we do appointment setting. This was something I had to hire a real person for. It's not it's more of like an entry level position. So it's not something where people stay in that role forever. So the constant cycle of having to hire new people, train new people, monitor, hope they're getting it right, make tweaks, and still not finding that, somebody's going to do it the way you need it to be done every single time. And AI has eliminated all of that. And it's given us something that I no longer ever have to go back and redo what's already been done. And on top of that, it's making us a ton of money. So financially, it's a huge money saver. It's a huge money maker if you know how to use it. But the time at bare minimum, we all only have 24 hours in the day. So, the people who are able to get more out of those 24 hours are going to move a lot faster. And there's an opportunity to weave this into every aspect of business at this point. So I know that's a very long-winded answer, but that's just kind of my evolution, in using this thus far.
Yeah, I was definitely in the same boat, Allie. I remember I was approached by a couple different AI startups to work with them and use their product for free. And I was like, I'm not going to use AI. That's silly. I'm a way better writer than AI could be. I think actually you brought up so many good points, but with AI and sales, you said that you were using it now for, voice, and you're doing it for outbound sales calls. You're doing all these things, making it sound personal. That's one of the hardest parts for so many business owners, is making it sound not like a robot. So let's talk about sales, because we all want to have more sales, right? And automation is great, but we know that, relationships, they still matter. And if you show up sounding like a robot, people are going to be like, okay, thanks, ChatGPT. You couldn't even send me an actual message. How do you balance using AI without sounding like a robot?
Yeah, it is definitely a balance. I think it all starts with having your voice, your business infused in whatever AI tools you are actually using. So, one of the first things that I recommend to my clients or my students whenever they're trying to start this process is record 2 videos. The first video is going to be your origin story video. You want to just free flow. If you want to write out notes, bullet points of a timeline or something like that, you can. But ultimately, this is not a video you're going to use as itself. You're going to take the transcript of this video. So just go as long as you possibly can. Start from the very, very beginning. For me, like my origin story technically started when I was like 10 years old, and you don't sometimes see that, but just go back as far as you can and then start working through your journey, the shifts that you made personally, professionally, what led you to different decisions. Talk about your wins, talk about your losses, talk about everything that you can story-wise that brings somebody up to speed within your journey. The second video that you want to record is, I call it your philosophy video. So ultimately, I could ask ChatGPT, I could say, hey, what's the best strategy to run Facebook ads? Okay. They're going to give me an answer. It's not the answer that I would give to somebody if they ask me. It's very different, in fact, than what it would give if someone asked me. That's true for anything that we do. If we have a business, we are an expert in whatever it is that we're doing. And we have specific ways that we do things, specific things that we suggest or recommend or processes. And if you don't have those things infused into whatever you're using AI for, it could actually cause more harm than good in a lot of cases. And it definitely could cause a lot of confusion and just make it, again, not personal and too generic. So if you can record those 2 videos, again, go as long as you possibly can. You don't have to worry about, saying or taking pauses, like let yourself think and don't worry about the actual recording itself, but get those transcripts and you're going to take those and upload those into ideally a custom GPT. And so if people aren't familiar with that, it's basically you just creating your own little chat GPT bot that is trained on a specific set of instructions and a specific set of data that you can upload, which means that you don't have to prime it with that info every time you need to use it. That alone, those 2 things will allow your outputs, whether it's video-based content, sales-based content, emails, scripts, whatever it is, to really reflect who you are as a business owner and the way that you do things, as well as tie in the stories that made you and your business who it is. Depending on what it is you're doing, having other things uploaded as well is huge. Being able to have call transcripts of calls that you've closed, call transcripts of calls that you have not closed, email chains with people that you've closed through email, DM threads, text messages. We want to give it examples of what right should look like. And that doesn't mean that that's as good as it's going to get, because AI could actually do a lot better than what you've given it, but it will give it an idea of how do you write. Now, not everybody speaks the same way that they write. So if you're doing that video recording and you're using this for written content, you definitely want to have some examples of what your written content looks like. I do still think it's better to do the video than type it out, even if that's the case, because at the end of the day, you're going to say a lot more if you do the video. And also a lot of people, they don't write super fast, or they would leave out a lot of things if they just did it text-based. But for example, the books that I'm writing. Now, I obviously uploaded a lot of things that were written by me, but I've got hundreds of pages of documents of my actual writing. I've got hundreds of pages of documents of my poetry, which will also be infused in the books. I've got character analysis for every single person who's in the book. And I've also got examples of writing that I really like. So it doesn't even have to be your examples always. This could be from a coaching program that you've gone through. This could be something that you get from another business and you're like, whoa, that's good. Like, I like that. So it's not about ripping anybody off. It's about taking examples of success and using those as a model and as a guide, because the outputs you're going to get are not going to be the same as whatever you uploaded, because this is now about you, about your business, your offers, your stories. And so just having that repository of content and uploading that first and giving it the right set of instructions is critical. Because if I'm doing a bot for ad copy, there's a very different set of instructions I'm going to give it than if I'm doing this for follow up for sales calls, not the same style whatsoever. And so just making sure that you understand what the purpose is of this bot. You don't have to make it for everything. It's actually better in a lot of cases if you segment these things so that you can be more specific. So I think that's the first thing, is just making sure that whatever you do moving forward is not generic, is 100% based on you and your business. And then obviously, if you have offer documents, which hopefully everybody has, you want to upload those as well, so it knows, what are you selling? What is included? What are the pricing options? For voice AI, it's a little bit different. And it's also a little bit different depending on what platform you actually use, because they do have different setup processes. The prompting looks different depending on those platforms. And so for one of our voice AI platforms, my script is 45 pages. And 45 pages might sound like a lot, but this is actually one single dynamic script that will work for any offer that we have, so that I didn't have to set one up for every single offer, because I've got a lot of them and that'd be a lot of work. It'd be a lot of work to update. Like if I missed something or needed to add something, I didn't want to have to do that in 30 different documents or agents. And so creating one solid document is going to be huge, whether you're using conversational AI for text messages, social DMs, things like that, or whether you're using it for inbound or outbound voice calls. And so the things that you want to include there, definitely the general instructions. So the tone, the way in which you want it communicating. You want to give it all of the background information on you as a business, you as the founder, where you're located, your hours of operation, whatever that looks like. You want to have a Q&A, a massive Q&A, as many Q&As as you can possibly have. And so for a lot of people, they have never actually put together a large Q&A like that. And the easiest way to do that is to export content. So you can export your inbox content. You can screenshot DMs, you can screenshot, wherever you're actually having conversations, or you can export that. And then you can actually have AI pull out every single question that has been asked about your business in the last X number of months. So I'd probably go back at least 3 months on that, so that you get a really, really good, well-rounded view of what people are asking. But you can also say, hey, AI, what are 100 different questions that somebody could ask about my products, services, and business? You already have my origin story. You already have my philosophy. You already have my offer documents. So you tell me, what are the questions that people are going to ask? And so if you don't have a lot of that data to start with, that's okay. It's just like with anything else in marketing. You start with what you think is going to be the best, and you test it and you see how it works in the real world and you optimize it. And so start with those things. And as you get different questions coming in, if you don't have the answer that you want, you just go in and you update it. And now this is something we missed. So the more data you have up front, the easier it'll be, but don't let that slow you down or stop you. You really leverage AI to create these individual pieces that will go into your master script or, AI prompting document. You also want to make sure if you've got qualifying questions, those are really clearly outlined. What are the qualifiers and the disqualifiers? Does the response or the offer change based on the answer to certain questions? And then really having a detailed outline of all of those offers. So this would be things outside of just your primary products and services. If you have any lead magnets or gated content offers or, special promotions, even if you don't run those all the time or promote them directly in ads, that's okay. People are still going to come across them. See, people still might have questions about them. But one of the things that I really like to do is also list out, what does somebody being interested in this offer tell me about them? Okay, does it tell me that they're a certain type of business owner? Does it tell me they're interested in certain things or they have certain problems? And if that's the case, are there specific questions we would want to ask these people who are engaging with this offer that maybe we wouldn't start with on another offer? And so outside of that, it's really just kind of some additional guidelines on how you want it to greet people, how you want it to sign off? And then is there a time where you want it to book an appointment versus not, make a sale or send a payment link versus not, transfer it to a real team member? So if you put together that document, regardless of which platform or AI applications you use moving forward, this is your Bible for your business. This one thing, you could upload that into any AI platform and it's going to immediately understand everything it needs to know about your business from a customer point of view. And so having that also expedites everything else that you create with AI moving forward. So definitely want your voice, your tone, the approach that you use. Some people are like total hard ass, other people are very, warm and friendly. And that's the persona that they want their business to represent. So whatever it is that your brand does represent, that needs to be extended to anything that AI is creating for you. And you also don't have to use it in every situation. I think that is the difference. You mentioned relationships being so important. They are. Relationships are critical. And what you should be doing is automating and using AI for every mass communication that you can. If you can do that, you will free yourself up to have the time to now personally focus on the relationships that matter. Not everybody is worthy of your personal time in every season of your life or business. There might be people that you really, really want to connect with on a deeper level. Those are the people you should be reaching out to personally. But
I
not
think,
everybody falls in that category. So it
yeah.
will allow you to spend more time getting closer with the people you care about the most.
Well, and Allie, I love that, it sounds to me like you need to be a part of your AI. No
Absolutely.
matter what, no matter what AI does for your business, no matter how many things you set up, sitting down with AI, whether it's uploading a transcript, whether it's talking to it, uploading past DM conversations, past sales calls, it's spending the time with AI so that it gets to know you. I know that you have your membership. Talk to us really fast about the membership, and then I want to ask you one more question.
Yeah. So Online Profits AI is really for businesses ideally doing $500,000 or less per year. It can be a benefit to businesses of any size, honestly, but it was really created with that audience in mind. And it walks you through every single area and stage of business and how you can use AI to do that thing faster and easier. So every single lesson has got a set of prompts that goes along with it. It helps you understand, like, if you're starting here, this is what you want to be digging into. If you're starting there, this is what you want it to review or analyze. It goes through the entire digital presence, setting up your digital foundation, using AI tools to make that build out, not just the writing, but the actual technical build out a lot faster, because there are massive advantages of using workflow AI, of using funnel AI, all these things that we used to have to do manually. It goes into AI based lead generation strategies for paid ads and direct outreach and SEO and all of the things that business owners, especially at that level, really need to be doing. But this gives you the exact prompts and prompt frameworks for all of that to be done way faster. It goes into team building and SOPs and fulfillment and delivery. So it's really designed to be a start to finish program that allows you to just move at a speed we were never able to move with, even 5 years ago. Like, I wish
Mhm.
this is what I had when I started my business. And then it has coaching calls during the week. We've got monthly workshops that go through things as well. There's a community to be able to connect with other business owners and really just, share those wins and the things that you're doing. So I'm really excited about it. It's our newest program, and this is serving a market that I didn't necessarily have the right option for previously. People who didn't have $8,000, $20,000 to invest, but they still really, really needed the help. And so this is at an awesome price point that is affordable to really anybody. But more than anything, I'm just so excited to see the feedback that we've gotten and to see people moving through these things so quickly, which is exactly what it's designed for.
Well, and as we wrap up today's episode, I think that this is what you need to do to make AI work for your business. Not just sitting down and putting in a generic write a Facebook post to help me sell XYZ. Those days are gone. You have to, well, I don't even know if they ever really should have been here with the rocket emojis, attention entrepreneurs. Like, this is where, if you spend the time now to sit down and talk to the AI, it's going to really, I mean, that's why you've been able to launch so many things over these past you said 6 to 8 months ago, you've been building, and you're like, everything's in its place, everything's working, everything's selling. For someone that's still maybe at the novice phase of AI and how to use it, and some of the stuff you've talked about, like making sales calls and stuff, what is your first piece of advice that you'd give them, other than to check out your membership, because obviously they should, but what should they do if they're like, man, I had no idea any of this was even possible. I was still just using it to help me write my emails. What
Yeah.
would your first tip be for them?
Ultimately, being able to understand where you currently are and where you want to go. That is step one. Everybody has a different path. Everyone has a different set of goals, and you can't implement AI based on what somebody else is doing or what somebody else thinks you should be doing. You really need to ensure that whatever it is that you're going to spend your time on moving forward, that it is specifically tailored to help you get where you want to go and based on your specific challenges or bottlenecks in your business. If you are really solid at certain things, you're really efficient at certain things, even if AI can help you with that, that's not where you want to start because you're already faster. You're already better. You need to leverage this in every area that you struggle, every area that you're weak, every area that you feel like I'm not moving as quickly as I know I should. Or maybe you don't have a team member to help with those things, because what it's going to do is it's going to give you your time back first. You want it to give you your time back in every possible area where your time's being spent but does not deserve to be spent. Everything outside of your zone of genius, there is an AI application to help you do this. So you need to understand what those things are. And truthfully, if you don't know, you need to use AI to find out. It can truly be so introspective. If you really, like you said, you spend time with it. I've been journaling with AI a lot lately, and I've always journaled, but now I actually get another feedback or perspective. I can now ask questions about these things that I'm dealing with and get real answers. And it doesn't mean that everything that you get is right, and that's okay. But the more conversations you have, the more it has honest feedback on where you are, where you're struggling, what your team looks like, the things that you're having a hard time with, the better job it's going to be able to do of giving you the next steps that will make your life easier. So don't feel like you've got to start with all the things. Just like anything else, you try and do too many things at once. If you don't have the foundation behind you, everything's going to suffer because of it. You need to start by just getting your time back. And then every piece of time you get back can now be invested in the next thing that's going to help you get your time back. And then the next thing. And then you'll get to the point where your time's as freed as it can be right now. Now you can either focus on starting to automate or expedite the things that you are strong in. So maybe you don't have to hire another person to be able to fulfill more, with a higher client base. Or if it's a lead generation thing, you need more leads, you need more sales. You need to shift those efforts to focusing on getting leads, getting appointments, getting sales. So just start with the end in mind, but really take a deep look at where you are and then let that be your guide in terms of what you implement first.
Love it. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. If people want to join the membership, which I'm going to check out, I'll include the link in the show notes. But if people want to check out the membership, they want to follow you online, tell us where we can learn more, all things Allie Bloyd.
Yeah, absolutely. So my primary website is alliebloyd.com. That's ALLIEBLOYD.com. Onlineprofits.ai is the site for the program. So definitely check that out. I think it's something, again, I'm really very proud of. I think the content and the resources, more than anything, I'm like a resource person. The resources are amazing. It's designed not just to teach you, but to help you do. Every single thing is implementation based. I have a podcast called Marketing Inc. definitely check that out. And then I'm on, YouTube, social media at Allie Bloyd or Allie Bloyd Media, pretty much everywhere. So whatever your preferred platform is, that is certainly where I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I follow all things Allie Bloyd on Facebook, and you give away so much free value and ideas. It's amazing. So be sure to connect with Allie. Allie, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I hope you're leaving with valuable insights and the inspiration to lead your market. If you've enjoyed our time together and found today's podcast episode useful, I have a small favor to ask of you. Please hit that subscribe button to stay updated with the latest episodes. And if you know someone who could benefit from these episodes, maybe a fellow business leader or an aspiring entrepreneur, go ahead and share this episode with them. Let's spread the knowledge and grow together. Also, I'd love to hear from you and continue the conversation beyond the podcast. Visit me at katiebrinkley.com to connect, to find more resources, or just to share your journey. And be sure to pick up your copy of my new book, The Social Shift, at katiebrinkley.com/book. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Katie Brinkley, and I can't wait to dive into more strategies and stories with you on the next episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Let's keep on taking your marketing to new heights.